Welcome back to the Boundary Corner podcast. I'm Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler. Buddy, we were angry yesterday.
We were, and it's a great thing that happened probably for our hearts and, our bodies that you headed down to VB for a show, thought you'd be back by about 10:30, and then other things happen and you get caught. Because I think if this had been 24 hours ago, I think we probably would have ran it for probably 2 hours.
You're probably going to get a slightly more lucid
down.
and thought out breakdown here. You may not quite get the fire and brimstone that you would have gotten last night, but we're still plenty angry, and you're going to see that come out here, ladies and gentlemen. So let's buckle up.
We're plenty angry, but it's Sunday night, so we're not here having, complimentary beverages. And, I'm having some water because we got to go to work tomorrow.
I'm still having one, but,
You're having one? Nah, I'm good tonight. When last night didn't happen, it's probably the best thing for my body. I went to sleep at a normal hour, got a good amount of sleep, and compared to a normal Saturday where we would have talked, ranted, watched some late night football, but we didn't. So
easily 1 a.m. before we normally cash it in, guys.
Easily.
After a Saturday rant, yeah.
After a Saturday rant session, stay up watching football, but we didn't do that. But, with the loss 27-21 to West Virginia, we got a lot to unpack, a lot. And it's primarily towards one side of the ball, but we're not going to let the defense off the hook. They had their moments, especially in the first half. But, Brian, we sit here tonight, man, and we just got to straight up say it. This game was the story of 3 drives. 3 drives inside the 10-yard line, 9+ plays, 0 points. 0.
Absolutely atrocious red zone offense for really the entire game, but in particular, I mean, those 3 drives were absolutely mind-numbing. And let's start with the first one. So,
in the half,
we thought just before the half, this is after Braxton Burmeister has an amazing scramble, gets outside, breaks a tackle, dives for the first down. Blackshear has a good run, gets it inside the 10-yard line.
Yep.
And here's where things get hazy. So first down, we know what happened.
Yep.
We watched it. It should have been a touchdown. That the back judge called it a touchdown.
Then they got together.
They said no, incomplete. Ball touched the ground. Review, and I don't know how this crew comes back with not seeing definitively that ball never touched the ground. I have no idea what they were looking at. Every angle I saw, the ball never touches.
Hold on. This is why they did what they did, just looking at it yesterday. All right. If that was ruled a touchdown, whatever way they called it on the field was not going to be overturned. Because of the darkness of Tavion Robinson's gloves and the darkness of the ugly West Virginia end zone and the way that ball came up, when they called it incomplete, they had the mindset of it hit the ground, that's why it popped up. That had to be their mindset, right?
Had to be with, I mean,
versus
hands were underneath the whole time, but that's neither here nor there.
But if they keep it as a touchdown, then you sit here and say, well, his hands are there. That's probably why it popped up. You can't say the ground popped it up because there was no definitive evidence. So what they did is they screwed us on that. If they called it a touchdown, it stands. We walk into halftime 27-14. It's a lot different ball game in the second half. Who knows how it turns out? Maybe we're not as angry right now, but we are. But that's what it was.
Yep.
So the review took – it felt like 10 minutes. It literally felt like 10 minutes. Like, what do we do here? What do we do? And then they come back, call stands, no touchdown. And then Neil Brown, which I don't have an affinity for not liking him. I liked him when he was at Troy. You like a guy less when they go to a rival school. Let's call 3 timeouts in a row. While we're just like,
yeah, I mean that was So we lost about 6 minutes on the review, maybe. Then we had another 3 or 4 minutes lost on the 3 timeouts. Then we finally line up. Fucking false start. Back up 5.
Not a shot there.
And then after all that, we don't get it on third.
Nope.
Go out to kick the field goal there. We're on the right hash, which for whatever reason, John Parker Romo struggles from the right house, especially close up.
He cannot hit them close. And my thought is he is a draw kicker, and he's aiming just on the outside of the pole, expecting to draw back. John Parker, I need you to go to the golf course and hit a sand wedge this week, or a snap wedge or a lob wedge, and try to turn that ball over. That ball will not turn over the way you normally probably draw a ball. That ball will draw only a little bit, and that's what you're doing. Now, I'm going to put that on Shabest, because Shabest could be kicking when he's sitting there like, listen, son, you need to aim for the middle. If you can duck hook that thing within 20 yards to the other side, then you shouldn't be kicking at all.
Well, at this point, I mean, we've obviously seen that he has a tendency to kind of leave it right. So we got to make some adjustment here, and the fact that there hasn't been an adjustment made at this point is disappointing.
Well, hold on. It should go to the offensive coordinator, who should have in the back of his head, he has struggled from the right hash. Maybe I should run something to the left hash to at least get us set up that way.
Yep.
But I don't think that guy thinks like that at all. So we missed a field goal. It's 24-7 at half. And I mean, I think for majority of us, it's just the thought of this game's over.
We almost, a lot of us had almost checked out. But if we hadn't physically, we had more or less mentally checked out at that point. Especially after we opened the second half. Defense does a good bend don't break act, but they still got another 3 to kind of start that off, and we're like, all right, well, they're still scoring, we're still not. This shit's gonna get ugly. And then we kind of get to the end of the third quarter, and Blackshear has a good run down the sideline, gets in the end zone just before the end of the third quarter, and now we got ourselves a 10-point game.
But let's be honest though with that. Braxton Burmeister saved that drive. A 26-yard scramble on 3rd and 24. He doesn't do that. There's literally no pulse. We probably go for it on like 3rd and 20. We run 4th and 20. We run like a draw. That's the way things seem to be shaping up nowadays. So he saves us. We get it in, like you mentioned, literally with 1 second left on the clock. And maybe a little hope, but you're still sitting here like, okay, yeah, that's great, but it's one quarter. We really haven't done much all day. Are we really going to get 2 quarters? Defense is playing better. Defense finally locked in, settled down a little bit. But then, let's talk about it. The garbage sack, get the fumble, and yes, here we go. We're going to drive. We're moving it. Brian, we start using all parts of the field. We start using some middle parts with Caleb, a little jet sweep, a little outside zone. It's like somebody was saying, hey, let's mix these things up. Maybe we could actually get down and maybe we could score. And then we get down. And then the comedy of errors started. First down was the, hold on, let me get my notes here because sorry about this. I can't remember the play. Good Lord, I'm probably trying to forget these things. What was that play?
First one was a dive.
Yeah, I put a WTF. What kind of play was that on first down after Jalen gets that huge gashing play down to the 6? It's like they're on their heels. The only thing you shouldn't do is give them a simplistic – that's why I put a WTF play. Don't give them a simplistic play that will gather their momentum back. What do? Let's just run it right at them. Let's run it right at them. This is going to work.
I mean, we struggled with push up front most of the day, and we had an earlier one where it was 4th and 1. We went for it, didn't get it. Like we couldn't sack up and get short yardage all day. But
can we talk about that?
I'll let you go on that one.
It's 4th and 1. You have Connor Blumrick, 6'5", 220 pounds, who the week before showed this can be done with him. Yep. You don't see him all day.
I really don't get that design there, but let's finish up what we were talking about on the fourth quarter drive here.
Okay.
The big head scratcher is the third down play call.
Well, the second down was okay. The second down, it was a fake jet, a little inside zone to get us down to the 3 on the far right hash. All right. You got all this room left, but we're on the far right hash. You have all this room left. Pavian Robinson, great fade route. Trey on a great fade route, right?
Yep.
And, I got to watch it after the fact, so I knew what was going to happen. But I'm sitting there and I'm seeing the setup. I'm like, you put everybody in the box except the person you want and say, go beat your man. Instead, you try to explain this in all of your football experience, Brian, what happened.
Well, the thing they're doing, and the concept that they wanted to do is something that has worked in the past when James Mitchell is in the game. James Mitchell is not in the game, ladies and gentlemen.
He's going for the seat.
And when James Mitchell, when they do this jet sweep to the short side, what they usually have is James Mitchell in there, which means that the strength of the defense is away from where the play is going. That was not the case with Trey motioning into the backfield and then taking the jet sweep. We ran right into the heart of the defense. There were 2 players that were not even accounted for in the blocking scheme on that side of the defense, and it got absolutely blown the fuck up.
My biggest issue with that, Brian, is when Trey went set, it was still like that. They didn't move anyone. So usually it's a check, right? It's a check to the side.
You would think so, yeah.
It's like, nah, we're gonna go right at them, and you're sitting here and saying, like you said, you start counting players.
There's 2 guys on block. There's 2 guys not accounted for in that scheme.
How are we going to get this in? What probably should have happened in that case, I told you what my thought was. Again, we still had a guy single out. I think Tavion was high. Fake the jet motion. Try to run him on a slant or something where you hope that cornerback's eyes looks inside and he can't make the contact and he gets in, you throw a touchdown. Or you'd ran jet sweep all day. Braxton Burmeister had not taken it one time. You know what? Everybody says, well, we got to, we understand we need to protect him. In this case, it is less than 2 minutes to go. It's almost borderline a minute, right? Oh, no, this is the earlier one.
This is the early one. This is, I think,
3 minutes left to go. It's 3 minutes left. It's not much time because of
it's a little bit earlier than that. We actually scored with 3 minutes left.
Okay,
so the Holston scores at 3 minutes. This was like 5 or 5.5.
Okay, either way,
yeah,
you have a chance to get within one score.
Yeah,
they have shown you they're going to sell out. Pull it, just pull it, or if nothing else, Brian. Be creative, right? Yep. You have team there. Fake the jet. Run an inside zone. Run a speed option left.
The only time that we had a design run for Braxton, it was that dumbass 4th and 1. Everything else was either him taking off. For whatever reason, we are not using the read elements of the read option. It looks like way too many times. It's a design call.
Yeah,
it's a design call. They're not letting Braxton read the defense, and if they are, then they need to coach him up that he needs to start keeping it more often.
Exactly.
But the way the mesh point is, I don't see that as a read. I see that as him giving the ball all the way and carrying out the fake.
Exactly. So we lose 3 yards there. So we're back at the 6-yard line. We're back at exactly where we started after the Great Holston run or the Great Holston play. And 4th down, we're trips far. Smith is near. Haheem's in the backfield, and they're forming. They're like a cover 2. So to me, they are sitting here kind of saying, well, you're going to have to run something short and quick. If you have a scramble drill, we're going to keep two guys in the back of the end zone. So if you're doing any sort of crossers, we're going to have a guys covered there. It looked like maybe Drake was the pass. It looked like he hooked up, but he was right. Like two guys were like this with him. They were just like that. And it was just like, in some chances, you almost just say, as soon as he steps and hitches, just throw it. What if they pick it? You're down 14. If they pick it, at best, they're going to be maybe at the 20. At worst, they're going to be inside their own 5.
Yeah, it was held on too long. I know Brock got beat. He was at actually right tackle at the time. He got beat on the edge. That was the sack fumble to close out that series. But I mean, that's trip number 2 into the red zone, inside the 10, at one point inside the 5, no points.
Yeah.
Then we have great defense. We already talked about the Holston scoring on the check down there.
Yep.
Hold them on third, get the pick on the Waller gets the interception on the screen.
He sniffed that thing out.
We're back inside the 10, guys. We're back inside the 10. We're knocking on the door. There's less than 2 minutes to go in the game.
Less than 2 minutes to go. I mean, this is the game.
Yeah.
This is the game. They have one timeout left, and the way we had set in zone, I highly doubt they could probably cover the 30 to 40 yards they need to get in field goal range.
Yeah.
Gilbert Gallego saying our tight ends need to be more involved. Agree with that, but the way that we're playing right now, you cannot risk taking Gallo and putting him on routes.
Well, if you're going to, you need to leak him out like we've done in the past so many times. And we'll talk about it right now. Let's go ahead and fucking talk about it right now, because on this game-deciding drive, we ran up the gut twice, and then we had 2 sprint outs to the right. That was our genius fucking plan to get in the end zone. So let's, the up the gut calls are what they are, right?
When I called Brian... I called Brian not long after the game ended just to get his feelings on it. And the first thing you said was, why in the world are you deciding on the last plays of the game to cut half the field? Like, you were livid. You were like, I don't get it. Like, I can't understand that. So
it was so infuriating to me. It's essentially saying it's saying 2 things. It's saying we don't trust our offensive line to give Braxton 2.5 seconds to get a read and make a throw. That to me is unacceptable. At some point, you got to trust your players to go out there and make a play. They've done it in this game. They fought and clawed and got back into this game.
They did not
trust the players to make a play. Trust them and give them an opportunity to make that play. Don't cut them off at the knees before the ball is even snapped. And that's what they did with those calls. They cut half the field off, and they said, all right, well, it's an attempt to flood the zone, but there's so many damn defenders already in the zone, like it's not going to work. You might get lucky as hell that something comes out there, but give your quarterback the whole field to work with. If he drops back, he has an opportunity to take off and run.
Yep.
He doesn't have that with the sprint out that they see coming from a fucking mile away.
And the other issue on that is you're also taking whoever's on the left side of the field and your running backs and the tight ends, or at least one of the tight ends in that, they're going to be out of the play. So whoever's on the left side of the field, because we sprinted right, is out.
Yep.
Whoever's the running back is completely out. So you are taking 2 weapons off completely. And essentially you're making it a 3-on-5 game. And
you didn't leak anyone to the backside of that play.
Nope.
That's where when we talk about tight ends getting involved, that's where we traditionally get the tight ends involved, is that we show that sprint action, and then we have either a drag going back across, or we have a tight end leaking out on the backside of the block.
Yep.
And we did none of that. We did none of that.
Remember Malik, like the first year? He scored a couple on those leakers because he down blocked, and eventually the linebacker, whoever he was blocking, would like get off and just attack the ball, and he would just take like 3 steps, and it was just a easy touchdown.
And that would have been a perfect call on third down because if you actually had that, because you still had plenty of time to get back up to the line and get a call in there.
Yes, you did, but we didn't do it. So there's your 3 opportunities, and as much as people want to say it could have been a blowout for West Virginia, it's 21 points. That's 42-27 max. And I know there's a minimum, but we hit the minimum. We goose-egged it. And with that, we're going to – it's time because we've done it before, and we're going to – it's going to be a little more hardcore tonight. So I told Brian about 10 minutes before we got on. It's the old definition of insanity, right, Brian? Continue to do the same things over and over and expect a different result. Brad Cornelison is insane when it comes to short side field plays. We've seen it since he got here. I can remember I'm going 3 in 3 consecutive years. 2019, Kentucky. Was it like 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, Brian? We're driving. It's late. We get a first down. We almost can lock it up, but we've got to get it. And he runs a short side sweep with Hendon Hooker. They sniff it, lose 3-4 yards. We have to punt. They clearly drive the field, score a touchdown. Last year, and this is the play I talk about a lot, 3rd and 3, North Carolina, we're driving. After that horrendous start, we have a chance to go down, cut it to 1 score with just a few minutes left in the half. He throws a short side screen 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage to Tavion Robinson, right?
Yep.
They eat it alive. He's down. The next play is the inside slant that gets broken up. And then it was the Trey Turner play yesterday. And again, short side, box loaded, they eat it alive. And I sit here, and it's the same things. His errors from 5 years ago and subsequent years are continuously the same errors over and over and over again. And that makes me mad because I sit here as a novice at football and can say you can't continue to do that.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at it, it feels like situationally, and we've talked about this before, situationally, it's like he talks himself out of good decisions. It is absolutely infuriating just watching good drives turn into either 3 points or no points because of ineptitude in key situations.
Yes.
Like I said, I feel bad for the offensive players because they really went out there and they played their ass off, especially in the second half. Yeah. A lot of I'll use the word, a lot of grit from the boys out there in the second half, but it feels like the staff didn't prepare them well enough to start this game, and then key moments in the second half were just killer. They were killer.
It's backbreaking.
You gotta put the ball in the end zone when you have the opportunity. You just have to.
And when you have 3 like that, you got to get at least 2 of those 3, at least 2, because you had them reeling. They were reeling on those last 2 drives. You can say the one before the half was a screw up. Those last 2, they were reeling. And if you call the right play on that 1st and goal, it's a touchdown. But instead, he called plays that let them regain their footing, get their breath, get their thought process back. And he's done.
And on the drive to end the game, I had no problem with the 1st down run call because you want to get a little bit more clock. You want to take a little bit more clock off. So 1st down, that's a smart play. You get inside the 5, hopefully with that. You get a little clock running, or you force them to use their timeout, right?
Yep.
2nd down, I didn't like them going back to the well, really running essentially the same play again. And then back-to-back sprint outs.
Same plays. He ran the same plays both times. the same play first and second, the same play third and fourth. Like, there's nothing else in the playbook here. There's nothing else that you can come up with to potentially get it in the end zone and win a game.
Yeah. Like I said, I really don't like taking away that much of the feel in a key moment. You know, there are strategic times where you call the sprint out. I just don't feel like that is where I hate it on key downs. It seems lazy to me. It seems lazy.
Brian, you got anything else you want to say on corn right now? Because I'm gonna go in a little different direction about who I want to rant on.
Yeah, go for
it. Corn's the easy scapegoat. He is. And we've seen it over and over.
Okay.
But, Brian, we work at jobs where if people do the same thing over and over and it's wrong, eventually they quit looking at the person who does it and they start looking at the person who's in charge of that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's Justin Fuente. The same things keep happening, and it's on his watch. It's on him. You have not went in and corrected your employees' problems, and it is affecting everyone. It is affecting the offensive coordinator. It is affecting all of the positional coaches. It is affecting the players, and it is affecting the fans. And it's on you because you should be making the decisions of if you're telling him, don't do this anymore, let's call these plays, and he's not, then you need to fire him. If it's to the point where, you know, we feel good about the design, we feel good about what we're doing, but, you know, he has these areas where he needs to work on. It's been 5 years. If he hasn't worked those out yet, if you can't fire him, you need to take away responsibilities from him. And you will not do it. He will not do it. And it's you know what? And I know it's tough, Justin. You lived with the guy in your 20s when y'all were just getting in the coaching ranks and you lived in the fraternity. It was so cool. But guess what? You're making $4.7 million a year. He's making right at $500,000 a year. And what we're seeing as a program, especially the last 3 years, is a average product. We're not used to that.
Yep.
During a 4-year run where Frank was average, people that love Frank said it's time to go. We don't want an average product. And you're giving us an average product, and you're not doing anything about it.
You were hired to bring the product back to where it was in the late 90s and the entire decade of the 2000s. And we've one time in that the entire tenure reached that level, and a lot of that was with holdover players from the Beamer era.
Yep.
At some point, we got to stop losing games like this that we have no business losing.
No business.
It's really frustrating at this point because, as you said, if the problem is everything, then you need to fire him. And if the problem is the play calling, then you need to either take over responsibilities or hire yourself a co-coordinator that is just going to call the plays.
Or hire somebody on staff. Give Adam Lichtenberg a shot.
But you can't do the same thing over and over and expect different results.
And that's what we're getting. We're getting different results. And the thing is, what his go back to is, well, he's had like some of the best offensive seasons in Virginia Tech history. Now, first of all, you're comparing that to Brian Steinspring, who ranked under 100 several times with NFL talent, son. And the other part is yards are great. Yards are great. Yards without points are meaningless. And that's what he does. He gets yards without points. So if you ask me right now, would you want to average 538 yards a game but score 29 points? Or would you want to average 400 a game and score 38? I think the game I think it's pretty easy.
Points are the only thing that matters. If you're not scoring points, I don't give a shit how many yards you put up.
No, it doesn't. Because they're empty.
I've seen teams average under 450 yards a game, but they're averaging 42 a game. Like,
Efficiency.
At some point, if you're putting the ball in the end zone, then that means either one of two things. Number one, your offense is being efficient. Number two, you probably also are pairing that with a good defense.
Yep.
And they're giving you the ball in good field position.
And they did that twice. They did that twice yesterday. You did, and another thing, let's go on to the continuing to kind of rant. You talked about just the poor job up front, getting push. We looked, in that first quarter, we looked lackadaisical.
It looked like it was the first road game they had ever played in their careers.
Not even that, Brian. You can have nerves. Usually you see nervous energy, somebody makes a dumb play, but you see people hyped up, right?
Yep.
We didn't look hyped up. And again, that goes back to Fuente. Your job is to get these guys in a mental state to go out there and want to run through someone. That first offensive play after that screen, which was a brilliant call, the next couple plays just kind of look like, blah, blah. Why are they behind us? Why can't we get pushed? It's just like, and the thing is with Fuente, we've seen that happen numerous times.
Yeah, we've seen them come out very, very lackadaisical, especially on the offensive side. It takes a quarter and a half, 2 quarters to really find their footing. And I'm going to talk about another thing. We're talking a little bit about the offensive line. I know that we've had some trouble. We had an injury in this game. We are still a work in progress on the right side. But the big problem I have is on dropbacks on third and long, we are still pulling the damn guard to the backside of the formation in pass pro. Get that shit out of the pass pro scheme. Get it out of there. I don't want to see it. We gave up 2 sacks on that, and there was about 2 other quarterback hurries where Braxton's running for his life because of that damn scheme. I mean, this isn't the seasoned, well-oiled machine of an offensive line that we were last year.
No.
The right-hand side of that offensive line is still a very, very much a work in progress. Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
I got one more thing. I'm going to throw a quote I found on Twitter last night from our buddy Beamer Garage, someone we chat with off and on, and it was this. If the head ball coach really wants this job, he has to make the hard choices. He does. And it's either take the play call and duties away from him, which we spoke of, or you have to let him go. The head coach can take over the play calling and show the passion to stay, or he goes down with the ship. So to me, if Justin Fuente really wants this job, that presser tomorrow morning, we better hear changes. Here's my thing, Brian. I don't think we're going to hear a change. I just don't. And with that, to me, if you're somebody in the media, you would be like, why not? You're averaging this year, what are we averaging? 24 game? 24, like that, right?
24 game.
17, 35 right. Is 42. No, 21. 21 on the number. We played North Carolina, who gave up over almost 40 to UVA. We played Middle Tennessee, who is a G5 team. And we gave up a team that's given up 30 to Maryland, who couldn't barely get 20 on Illinois Friday night. There's a problem staring at you.
They threw the ball all over the field and couldn't get any points. And, our problem is we can't manufacture. We've become so dink and dunk. We can't manufacture big plays anymore in this offense. We missed the home run threat that was Khalil Herbert last year.
True.
And without those big plays and without the ability to really drive the football down the field consistently, we look very, very much an average offense to a below average offense.
True.
And you referenced Beamer Auto Garage there. I'm going to go ahead and reference the quote that Andy Bitter put out there on Twitter, saying it was a weird game because we had really no business winning the game, but we also have no business losing the game. It was a conundrum there, right?
Yeah.
We had no business it being close at the end, and then because it was close at the end and how close we came on multiple occasions to getting the ball in the end zone and coming up with Bupkus,
yep.
How do you lose that? And I'm going to say something about Braxton Burmeister here, and this is not a knock. This is just stating the facts here, okay? So right now, the abilities of Braxton Burmeister, especially in the passing game and driving the football down the field, it's limiting the offense, but at the same time, the skills that Braxton Burmeister brings to the table with his ability to escape and generate yards when nothing's there is also the reason that the offense has had success. So we're in a conundrum where he's generating offense that isn't there, but he's also not taking advantage of the potential offense that is there.
Yeah, and that's positive because how many college teams would kill for a guy that can keep plays alive with their feet and if needed, scramble for 5 to 25 yards at a time? I would say about half the teams in the country would kill for that. And we have it, but we don't have the offensive staff to, bring it out.
Yep.
Why not spread it out? John, come on. You've watched it just as long as we have. Corn.
Yeah, instead of spreading it out, you run him to half the field. You squeeze down any potential running lanes for Braxton and also any passing lanes for Braxton. So, yeah, genius. Absolute genius.
Genius. A couple things did come out of fruition. Braxton continues showing the scrambling ability. Blackshear and Holston showing their versatility, especially in the second half.
Big run by Blackshear to get the touchdown. Great job by Holston getting the catch on that dump, making a guy miss, running through a couple windows to get into the end zone. Because if he would have went down in the 5, we'd be talking about 4 drives and not 3.
We'd be throwing things really. And the other piece, Caleb Smith yesterday, 70-plus yards receiving. And it was one of those things in that as you were watching, it's like, okay, where are these routes just in the normal offense? They weren't.
Why do we have to be in complete catch-up mode for this to come out? Like, he looked like a decent stick mover, which is what we all thought he was going to be.
And what we need
last year when he was getting some snaps in the early part of the season last year. Like, okay, well, he's going to come in. He's going to be the stick mover. He's got good hands, good body, and he's out there. And he ended up, he had a good game, consistent when targeted, brings the ball in when targeted. But we, for some reason in the passing game, we just don't get the ball to our playmakers consistently.
Well, the sad
early
part
in games.
The sad part is this: he is a perfect complement to what Trey and Tay can do, being explosive, getting in space, big play guys. He's the guy, right?
Yeah,
right. Running them on jet sweeps, screens, having them go downfield. He's that perfect midpoint to where, okay, it's 3rd and 4. Let's send Alpha Pack Zach. Watch us not target him the rest of the year. Listen, write that down. Go to Vegas and see if you can find a line for Caleb Smith over/under receptions. Take the under. But it's that whole piece of, if you have those guys trying to do explosive things, getting downfield, and you 3rd and 4, well, okay, he's your bailout, right? But still, don't be afraid to run those other guys over the top on deeper plays, because if nothing else, you're going to make his job easier. But, I think we're digressing about that sort of stuff, Brian.
That's okay. But, let's wrap up a little bit here on the offense. I think we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but the big thing is that, zero energy out the gate. Felt really inconsistent with the play calls, weren't executing well. Situationally, we were also
situationally is always like that. Very rarely situationally do we absolutely kill it.
Yeah,
it's usually below average to severely below average.
It's either scary season or like, oh, that was not what we wanted.
Exactly. So yeah. All right, guys. Before we do take a look at the defensive side of the ball, we are going to take a quick pause and have a message from our digital partners.
As we take a quick break, we'd like to tell you about getting your free website report from our digital partner, Grassroots Digital Marketing Studio. They'll tell you how your website ranks on Google, on-site SEO, and social media. No commitment to buy anything. You can get your free report by visiting grassrootsdigitalstudio.com/free-website-report. Now back to the episode. All right, folks, we're back here. We're going to move over to the defensive side of the ball. We kind of wanted to, out the gate, focus on offense because we feel like that was where things really – that's where we lost the game. That's where the game was decided.
It was decided.
Defense yeah, kind of a tale of two halves. We had a pretty rough go of it to start out with, especially the opening play for the West Virginia Mountaineer offense.
Oh, 75-yard touchdown run from Letty Brown, someone we mentioned.
Yeah.
Good back. We mentioned his name, 1,000-yard rusher last year, Brian. And that play, you got it. Brian's got the note here. They schemed Dax out of position, and it was easy.
Thank you, John.
But and the first thing I saw on Twitter, and it was hilarious, Brian, was Dax sucks. And I'm texting you, I'm like, wasn't Dax doing his job? Because if he stays where he is, they're going to flip that to the tight end, and that tight end's going to have a huge seam to run up. So it was one of those, he's doing his responsibility. His responsibility, if he comes across, go with him.
So a couple things here. It looks like there was a little miscommunication between, I think it was Tay Daly and Dax there as far as who was going to pick up the tight end as he flexed out in motion. The bigger problem to me is that at the point of attack, Tisdale got blocked, and Nasir Peoples was a little bit early in kind of getting into a fit, and then unfortunately he was where Letty wasn't. Big hole. Dax tried to come back across the formation a little bit late there. Got his hands on him, but that was about all he could do. Yeah. Off to the races.
And touchdown. After what we had done on offense with the huge screen and then basically nothing after that. And that crowd was electric.
Oh, yeah. They punched us in the mouth there, and they went from 10 to 11 real quick.
Heck yeah. And again, on that play, it was a great design by them and a little miscommunication by us and wrong gap fit. It is what it is. So you brush yourself off. We did not see any other runs like that the rest of the day. But Letty Brown continued to get us in multiple ways. I think the guy was about 180 all-purpose, which is pretty crazy. And you talked about his pass catching ability, and that was on display along with his speed. So, and he
had a big damn game.
He had huge game.
And I know half the rushing yards came on that one play, but I mean he was still consistent the rest of the night as well. The rest of the afternoon, I should say, as well. And I mean, really, great game by him. We did a pretty good job of slowing him down in the second half, but the first half he kind of owned us.
Yes, he did. All right, then their next drive after we go 3 and out, where we looked blasé on offense, like literally. I think that you texted me vanilla ice cream, Brian. You're like, why? What are we doing here? Like, we're down. They just hit us in the mouth. Think of something. They come back.
I mean, it looked exactly like one of those early series against Middle Tennessee State last week that we called vanilla as hell, and it was round 2 of that.
Vanilla against a team with a lot more Division I players, and whatever you want to think of West Virginia and what they do, they did have one of the best defenses in the Big 12 last year with some really good players.
Yep.
So, you can't come out vanilla. All right, but back to the defense. So we punt. They start moving the ball. They get about to midfield, and they take a shot. And it was a little stutter move. Armani bit on it. We're in man right there. We're not in the zone.
It was cover 1. We had Nasir Peoples deep. Everybody else was manned up. Armani bit a little bit on the stutter. I actually had really good recovery. He was still in position to make the play. There was a little bit of push off by the receiver, but Armani did not turn around to make a play on the ball. Probably why they let that go. And that was good catch by the West Virginia wide receiver there, and they got a touchdown. They're up 14-0, and we look like we can't do shit, and they are just fucking moving the ball up and down the field on us.
They're absolutely rolling, right there. And the one thing I put on here, are we really in man? This is an air raid concept. It's a power air raid concept. Y'all saw how they ran the ball. The air raid was created by Hal Mumme in the 1990s to offset when you don't have the most talented receivers and you're playing better defensive backs. It is a concept to take advantage of that. Because if you have really good corners, you can consistently be in man coverage. It takes advantage. We saw Jay Ham starting to go to the zone scheme where in really the last few years of Bud's tenure, a lot of those man concepts, if we go back to ECU, Brian, when Lincoln was there, he would eat us alive when Bud go cover zero. Eat us alive.
Yeah, 0-1. It would be rough. It would be a rough afternoon.
And to us to come out and man against it, it was almost like this thing of if they're going to hit you, they're going to probably try to hit you early. I'm one of these, force them to drive, especially after what we saw both in North Carolina and Middle Tennessee State. They had some drives, but since we were primarily sitting in different zone schemes and zone coverages, they'd get about to the 30, and then when the shots couldn't be taken, they couldn't go anywhere. Because essentially the field got smaller. The guys who were running the back end, okay, we don't need to send 15 or 20 yards off. We can say, we don't need to be 25 to 30 yards off. We could stay in 10 to 15 because they don't have as much room behind us.
Yeah.
And we didn't do it. We had worked so well, and I didn't get it.
Yeah, it was kind of a flip of what we saw last week in the first half where we were stubbornly sticking to man and playing off and all this stuff. And then in this week we were kind of stubbornly sticking to man late here as well. So we finally got back to a little more zone against them as the game progressed. We had talked about some of the knife concepts that they like to run to the Twins side, and they took advantage of that some early in the game, got us in some mismatches. Then we had the drive that got them up to 21 when they got the third touchdown. That was some of the worst tackling I've seen this season. It's not some of the worst tackling I've seen this team do. I mean that was reserved for 2018 and 2020, but it was some pretty bad tackling on that drive. We had Connor try to go for a kill shot, and then they ended up getting a first down. Then later, Connor was matched up in the slot. They threw that little quick hitch, and he came in out of control, missed the tackle, ends up scooting in for the touchdown there. So we had a couple other interior plays where I think Dax missed one tackle. I think Tisdale missed a tackle.
Yeah. We missed
that was just a bad drive for tackling overall, and we got to clean that up because we had done a pretty good job of tackling and bringing guys down, once we got in position through the first 2 weeks. So it was disappointing to see a little bit of backslide there, even though we did clean a lot of that up in the second half.
We did. And it was super noticeable. My buddy Mike from work actually hit me up, and he's like, did we bring back 2018 tackling drills? Because it was so significantly noticeable the first two games, how we weren't missing tackles. It was forms. And it's one of those things. It's like you want guys to be jacked right, but you don't want guys to be doing dumb things that can potentially help the other team. And that's what happened on that drive, especially. And some people can say, the first two drives, they hit us with bombs.
Yep.
And there was no chance to tackle. On these drives, we start changing things up, putting us in good positions to make tackles, to stop them, and we just whiff. It's like they reverted, like, okay, we need to hit these guys hard. They're beating us. Like, no, we need to hit these guys and get them down because they're beating us. It means if they get more points, it's going to become tougher.
Yep.
All right, but
got to limit the bleeding. I think that's the big thing. We were in the point now where if we can stop the bleeding, we might have something. And then you get that touchdown, they get the field goal. I mean, it was a very demoralizing first half, but on both sides of the football. And the fact that it was as close as it was, really is a testament to some of the second quarter adjustments that Justin Hamilton made, and then obviously when we go into the second half, I mean, that was a completely different looking defense. I mean, I know they had a bend don't break drive to open things off, and then they really locked shit down after that.
It's true, but Brian, what did I just say when we were going and you said it? We started getting back into zone concept in that early drive. They got down to the 27. The deep shots weren't there.
Yep.
Easy for us to stop. They stopped. They hit a 44-yard field goal. And that's all the scoring they did in the second half. That's all the scoring they did in the second half. I mean,
and we dominated time of possession in the second half. We dominated time of possession in the second half.
We won it for the whole game.
We won it for the whole game. It was completely dominant in the second half.
But the whole piece is like you have this defense in place that will stop this type of offense, and it took you a whole half. Give Hamilton credit to say, nope, we got to go back to this to have any shot, and it worked. And, you know, we look on here, and defense continued to step up, making stops, making their drives short, not getting them big plays. And then, you know, you had the sack fumble by Garbutt and Tisdale. We already hit on it a little bit. Tawan Garbutt has played great. And
through 1 week, I was looking at Amari Barno as being the star of that defensive line, but really through 3 games, it's been Tawan Garbutt.
Well, Barno was an offer yesterday. Nothing on the stats. I mean, we saw him out there getting attention, and maybe that's what he is right now. He's an attention getter, which is good for the other guys to feast on the line.
It's helping Tawan Garbutt get those one-on-ones, and he's taking advantage of it. He's had 3 really good games so far. He had a good game against UNC. Just, Barno had a better game overall, but Garbutt has been steady player, playing at a high level through 3 games. I really like what I'm seeing from him, and hopefully we get Barno back on the stat sheet as we keep going along here. But overall, I'm happy with the defensive play. You take away the one.
Don't take away the adjustment, because the play in the first half was atrocious. The adjustment and those guys buying in and still playing their butts off. Yeah. I mean, playing their butts off to give us a chance at the end to win should not be looked down upon.
Yeah. Absolutely. And they really went out there and make plays. And while we're talking about making plays, the Waller interception went from our chances were very slim to our chances are pretty good. Obviously, we did make the most of them, but our chances went from slim to very good of getting the ball into a range where we could put it in the end zone.
Yep. I mean, in that play, he sniffed it. He sniffed that play out. The way Waller has played through 3 games, outside and inside, he is slowly making himself a little more money every week.
He's making a case for at least 2 day, probably day 1 in the draft, and that's a credit to him for getting healthy and working hard and coming back in and just playing his style of game. He's been aggressive when he needs to be. He's been tight in coverage when he needs to be. He's really been doing everything that you can ask of him. He's been playing in the slot against some of the more athletic slot receivers of West Virginia and North Carolina,
and doing a good job.
And doing a very good job. Yes,
I mean, because nowadays a nickelback in the NFL are guys who are getting paid somewhere between like $7 and $10 million. Where years ago the nickelback was the lowest man on the totem pole, right? Like. Yeah, you're like the 3rd string guy, or you're like the 2nd string guy that can play okay when they go through.
Well, you were matching up with like the Aaron Moorheads of the world in the early 2000s. Now you're matching up with probably at least the 2nd best receiver on the team, if not the best.
Very true, man.
A lot of times, I mean, the slot has really come along, went from kind of that extra wrinkle to an impact position, very much like the tight end has. So. The guys that work inside the numbers and inside the hashes are really some of the better athletes on the field now. And the fact that Waller can slide in and just lock up at both those positions is really impressive and is going to make him some money.
Exactly. So overall, defensive, an average day. I'm not a borderline F first half, a borderline A second half. And you know, where it frustrates you is you see a guy who is in his second year coordinating a side of the ball make adjustments that quickly.
Yep.
That's where it frustrates you, because the other guy has been a offensive coordinator in title close to 9-10 years now, and he doesn't. And yep, we're going back where we were 20 minutes ago, y'all, but it has to be done, because
we're circling back, because the big consistent problem with the games like this, where we lose to an opponent that on paper we should at least match up against, and we come out and lay eggs against, it goes back to the coordinator. I mean, we can't keep saying, well, execution. Yeah, but at some point, the coach is responsible for some of this, right?
Well,
either the coach didn't get them prepared where they were comfortable to execute in the game, or they're delivering them play calls that aren't good in the situation that they're facing.
Well, that's the point right there. They're getting a play call that even if they execute it perfectly, the results are going to be minimal.
No, it's almost more. They're giving them a play call where they have to execute perfectly in order for it to be a success.
And that should not be.
Why are we putting our players in like zero margin for error situations?
Well, you've talked about that when you played, that your head coach / OC, his goals, it seemed like every time when he called a play, was the goal of the play is, even if a few people mess up, we're going to have a positive outcome.
Something's going to be there.
Yeah. And it seems like for us is, if a few people mess up, it is usually, I'm not going to say catastrophic, although sometimes, the Trey Turner to me was catastrophic. When we were at the 3, we went back to the 6, which, completely changed the game, the play calls. Yeah. So it's always a setback. The plays that have to be executed where every single person has to execute perfectly, or it's not going to be a good play, continued setbacks. And when you go continued setbacks, what happens? This play sheet gets smaller. Well, we can't, from the 6, we only can do this, this, and this. So, again, I hope tomorrow, I'm sure me and you, Brian, while we're at work, we're going to probably, if they stream it, please stream it. Please stream the press conference tomorrow, because I don't have time in my day. We have real world jobs. We have families we like to spend time with.
We do.
We eat dinner. Kids have homework. Other kids, we have activities. Please stream it. So not at 3:00 as we're rushing to get off work and do things. We're trying to find it to put it on triple speed so we can hear everything as fast as possible. Stream it live. Unless I have a meeting tomorrow. If I have a meeting tomorrow, I don't care. But I don't think I have a meeting tomorrow. Ryan, we were true mid in our picks this week.
There we go.
5 and 5.
You can either take us or you can flip a coin, ladies and gentlemen.
You're right. Brian's 16-16 on the year. I'm at 15-17. We whiffed on UCF Louisville. That was a heck of a game. The pieces I called Friday night. Manny Diaz is officially on the hot seat.
Yeah.
If they lose to Michigan State by like 3, okay, they got
solid Big Ten team. Yeah, you can't go out there and get shellacked by Michigan State.
Hammered. What is it? 38-17.
Yeah, you can't put that one out there.
So the U is not back. The U is, they're, believe it or not,
I'll say I was wrong about this team. I thought they were going to take a step. I thought they were going to be right there with UNC and us to, win the Coastal.
Well, they're still in it though, Brian. They played 3 out of conference games.
It's true. They still have the chance to win the Coastal, but they are not a team that is going to press Clemson at all. And even though, let's talk about Clemson laying a dud against Georgia Tech, but still coming away with the win.
We'll come away with it, but I think those delays screwed that up. I mean, what time did that game end? It started at 3:30. It ended, like 9?
Yeah.
I mean, it
was ridiculous.
So,
it really gave Georgia Tech any and all chances that they possibly had to pull a miracle. I still don't know what Georgia Tech is.
No, we don't know what
they're still the most confounding team in the history of college football.
Brian, you might take them off the board right next week. I mean,
we're not picking Georgia Tech. I refuse to.
Brian's gonna be like, no, I'm gonna find some random. Brian's gonna look at a D3 game and pick it before he picks a Georgia.
If you say Georgia Tech, I say pass.
Brian, the
FSU. Let me pick the Hampton Sydney game.
The FSU weight game. I mean, FSU. I had somebody send me a message, or
they might win 3 games this year.
Hold on, let me get it. It's my cousin down in South Carolina. If you're listening tonight, he sent me a. Where is it here? So they're 0-3, first time since '76. Bobby's first year there.
Yep.
And they might not win 2 games. Because all right, Louisville next week. Louisville, after looking at competent the first 2 weeks, look more competent.
They look like they can beat FSU.
Yep. You know the way it looks? It's literally Syracuse and UMass. Like the way UNC looked last night, I think they're going to lay the hammer on them. Clemson's going to lay the hammer. I think NC State's defense can stop them.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they beat Miami or beat like it's one of those things though that it's kind of sad because college football's y'all can throw something and you can hate me all you want. When Miami and FSU are good, college football's better. Throw Nebraska in there too. When they're good programs, college football is a better sport in general. Yeah. And I mean, they lost by 21. And I know Wake's a pretty solid team this year, but the athletes that shouldn't lose by 21. They just shouldn't. What else, Brian? Here, the battle of the smart teams. Brian,
I won that one. I picked Duke, guys.
Can someone explain Duke to me? You got anything?
It's just Duke is now your Georgia Tech.
That's true, man. Brian.
Yep.
Temple got slaughtered.
We cannot talk about that. I was wrong on that one.
Hey, you said outright win. If you would have just taken,
I said that was my potential upset of the week. I didn't say outright win, but I said that was a potential upset.
You said upset. You be quiet. Now I'm gonna say this: 3 of the bigger ranked games, we crushed that. So, and we agreed on 2 of the 3. Auburn, Penn State. Penn State wins by 8. If not. I'm still trying to figure out Auburn. They have some good running backs, and it's Bo Nix doing dumb stuff. The Florida-Bama game.
Well, can we go back real quick to Auburn?
Okay.
The fade.
Okay, I must have missed that last night.
It was the 4th down call, and they call a fade. So,
why didn't we run one?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, okay, well, that's a decent 3rd down call, but it's a 4th down call, and you give your quarterback exactly 1 read.
Well, can I say something? I would have rather given us the fade than the sprint out on 4th down.
I'll agree with that.
Because I know Tentrey can go make that play.
And I know BB can throws a pretty good fade. I know it'll at least be there where they have a potential to make a play.
Exactly. The Florida-Bama game, I missed the first half. But to see the way Florida fought back in the swamp was electric. I mean, Bama is a flawed team. I don't think anybody out west can catch them. I don't think. Somebody asked me if they think Pittman's for real. We'll learn about Arkansas, I think, when they play A&M, although A&M's freshman quarterback's done pretty much until November. But I feel like Bama can be gotten. And Florida had the right ideas. It just took them a quarter and a half and Mullen to adjust to get there.
Yep. They were a little slower than they needed to be adjusting. They didn't have a great initial game plan.
Yeah.
But everything they did in game took away what Alabama likes to do, and that's what you have to do.
Very true. And then the late night, probably the one, if we had recorded last night, we would have been watching BYU Zona. BYU wins again. Bad day for the Pac-12. Their ranked team, two of their ranked teams lost. I feel like they've had another FCS loss too, so not great there. But hey, we're average this week. Continue to come here. If anybody wants to take one of our parlays, go for it. Anything breaking, Brian? Anybody gotten fired? Anything? You hope like
wishful thinking. No, we haven't seen the old kick in the boot to Brad Cornelison yet. So unfortunately, he is still our offensive coordinator at least until tomorrow.
Well,
but unfortunately, probably longer than that.
Probably longer than that. Probably until this regime is done. And
if history is telling us anything, then yeah, he's going to be riding it out until he's done.
Until it's done. Because and this is what I'll say for Justin Fuente. Doing this is going to make him a less desirable candidate at his next job. Because I think there's going to be a that sits there, and they're going to look at it, and they're going to ask him, Brian, Justin, when parts of your team are failing continuously, what are you going to do? And what's he going to say, Brian? What can he say when they say, why didn't you fire that guy?
I tell him to try harder, use grit, stick-to-itiveness, and try harder.
Sir,
now, what he needs to do is do what Brian Kelly did at Notre Dame and fire half your staff and bring in new guys that have proven to get the job done somewhere else and keep the train moving.
He had 3 times to do that. He had to do it. He had a chance to do it after 18, after 19, and after 20. He didn't.
Yep.
He didn't. And that's on him. That's why I'm saying I'm almost past the Corn stage. It's Corn's fault because he's got a boss, and his boss is essentially letting him do what he wants. So that is what it is.
Yeah. Can we get an offensive consultant in there again?
No, because there'll be a fight again.
I want to fight. The fight was good.
The fight did get us riled up. Heck of a string of wins and stuff there. All right, y'all. I think we're going to be wrapping this up because we got work tomorrow, and it ain't, Wednesday night.
It's Monday. It's not Thursday or Friday morning.
Friday, exactly. So that's going to wrap up this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast. I'm Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler.
Visit our website at boundarycornerbt.com to listen to all of our episodes. While you're there, don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Subscribe on YouTube. We do have a YouTube account. Check it out, folks. And your favorite podcast source, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, any of them, we are there. As always, with our buddy Jason Long, play us in, play us out. And as always, Brian, let's go.
Hokies!